Welcome to Str8Up Podcast, where we aim to connect international musicians with locally and regionally based artists and musicians. My name is Berto. We have the legendary 1/3 of the recipe, UAE's finest, Luke Swerte. I still probably pronounce it wrong. My bad, bro.
It's all good. It's all good.
How you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. I'm excited. I've been looking forward to come on this talk for a long time.
Man, thank you so much for coming, man. We're very excited to have you.
Thanks
bro.
for having me. Thanks for having me.
Firstly, man, I would just like to extend a thank you for all of the love you've shown me since I came here, man. I came here about 5 years ago, and you guys have been embrace me. You know what I mean? So I really appreciate that, man. From
man, it's likewise. You show us love and you support us in everything that we do. So it goes both ways,
and I really think y'all dope though, bro. That's, you know what I mean?
Thank you.
I think
it's good to hear that after so many years, hip hop's a young man's game, and it's cool being as old as we are now and still being appreciated and still being booked for shows and stuff, and people still coming out to see us. It means a lot, So thanks.
Yeah, no doubt, man, no doubt. So let's get into the backstory of how you got into music.
Oh, how did I get into music? Actually, it was watching my brother. So I grew up in Indonesia, and in Indonesia, in the local schools, the thing that's really big is marching band competitions.
Okay.
Well, the marching bands that do formations on the football field and stuff like that. So my brother was really into that, and I went to go watch him compete for the first time for the national competition.
Okay.
So this was in a pretty big stadium, and I think the whole experience of just being in this massive crowd, and then when hearing the marching band play for the first time, that first BAM! And they all started going in these crazy formations, as a 7-8-year-old kid, it was just whoa, what's this? And I was like, I want this. I want to do this. So I picked up saxophone. I learned how to play saxophone. I was in the school
why
band.
Saxophone? Because of the marching band, seeing how they moved on the marching band field?
Yeah, and I think The Simpsons just came out with an album. Bart came out with Do the Bartman and all that. Okay, this is Indonesia. Okay, we were very limited to the kind of music that was coming over to us from outside. So The Simpsons were big, and
you're the first person who ever came on our show that was inspired by The Simpsons.
Dude, everyone, people ask me what's the first rap you ever memorized. And I'm like, Do the Bartman. Everyone. P and Kaz will probably say I don't know, EPMD, Rakim or something like that, and then I'm just like Bart Simpson.
That's dope though, man. We all get our
Lisa. Shout out to Lisa Simpson. She put me on this whole music thing. I learned how to play saxophone, and then and then hip hop kind of blew up in Indonesia. My friends from the States started coming back, and they brought these CD singles with them, of whatever was popping at the time. And CD singles back then always came with the instrumental version of the song, right? Yeah. So whenever they came in class, everyone would, take turns every weekend, borrowing that CD and recording it on tape cassette before giving it back. And I just started writing, and I figured out a way how you could record from CD to tape, and using the mic input, using my headphones as a microphone, I could record my vocals with the instrumental onto tape cassette. So I started recording my raps that way. And that's kind of how it all started,
So going back to that time, and just being influenced by the marching band, recording your own music, did you ever think that you could make it in music? Was it a thought? Is that something that you wanted to be when you grew up as a child?
I think I didn't realize that it wasn't realizing that this is what I wanted to do. It was realizing what I didn't want to do.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I was always fascinated with recording. And when people ask me what it is you do, I don't say that I'm an artist. I don't say that I'm a rapper. I say I work with sound. I like to make noise. Sometimes it sounds good. A lot of the times it doesn't, my day job's a sound engineer, so I spend a good portion of my time in a studio, sound designing, mixing, producing, whatever. But my passion is sound design. I like making noise and putting it to visuals and stuff like that. So this was a passion of mine ever since I started recording from CD to tape cassette with microphone, and, you know, exploring all the different things that you could do in the recording process and sound making process. When it was my last year of high school, my dad and my teachers were, you know, getting everyone prepped to go to university and stuff like that. And they were all asking, so what do you want to study? What kind of university do you want to go to? Do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be this? And I was like, no, I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a banker. I don't want to be a businessman. My sister was a doctor. She spent like 10 years of her life studying and had no life. And I was like, I don't want to do that. You know, okay, she's got a great life now. It paid off in the end, right? But like at that age, I was like, I don't want to do that. So then they were like, okay, so if that's not what you want, what do you do? Like, what do you like to do? And I was like, well, I like being in a studio. And then my art teacher at the time, he was into making music and stuff like that. And he said, oh, why don't you learn how to be a sound engineer? And it was the first time I ever heard of this term. I was like, all right, fine. So I looked up a bunch of sound engineering schools, and I just told myself, whichever one accepts me first, that's what I'll go to. And the first one that replied back to me was a school in Manchester in the UK. That's where I went.
Boom. Yeah. So how difficult was it for your family to accept that you want to do it? It wasn't difficult at all, because, you know, just hearing you speak right now, you know, you have a sister that's a doctor that went through that. Were they supportive in your journey?
Yeah, they were very supportive. I think because they saw how passionate I was from a very young age. Like in Indonesia, I don't know if you could call it success, but like I was blessed with a lot of opportunities at a young age. Like I was going on tour as an opening act for a pretty big R&B singer in Indonesia when I was 14 years old.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You know, so between the ages of 14 and 17, before I was in my senior year of high school, I was performing quite a lot in Indonesia. And how it started was, as a rapper, the only way that you got a chance to perform back then was going to these like performance competitions.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yep. Similar to like what we had is like Apollo type of thing, like a night at the Apollo where you got to compete with everybody else.
Yeah,
winner and
and like a lot of people would cover their own song, cover other songs and stuff like that. So people would do like House of Pain, Cypress Hill, and all these things, right? And so my first performance was at one of these competitions, and we won it. We won first place, and then that then led us to go to the national competitions where we had to compete with all these other groups and stuff that. And we won that, and that just opened all these doors for us, and that's how we got booked to be the opening act and stuff. So my parents were very supportive because they saw how passionate I was, and
they saw the opportunities.
Yeah, and the opportunities that were opening up for me. So I went to Manchester. I studied there, and I mean, it was amazing. I mean, it's Manchester, you know. It's the music hub of the UK,
sure.
You know.
Yeah. So, what experiences did you have in Manchester that helped your growth as an artist?
I mean, it's Manchester, you know. Like, there's just so much music that comes out of this city, you know. And I think it was, in terms of passion and grind, like seeing how musicians just dedicate themselves to this, and not just musicians, just everyone involved in the music industry, you know. It was just no slacking, full on grinding. Like if you slip up, like that's it, you know. I was talking to Pav the other day about this artist that was signed to his record label, Sonny Jim. I met Sonny Jim at in Manchester, I had a little rap group in Manchester. It wasn't anything serious, you know. We were just having fun, hanging out, in the basement, because I was living in a shared housing with all these turntablists. Like, I was this producer rapper, and everyone else in the house was turntablists. And so downstairs in the basement, we had built like a studio, you know, with MPCs and like all these records that they had all collected and stuff like that. And
probably was the noisiest house in Manchester.
It was one of many. I can tell you that. It was one of many noisy houses in Manchester. We would just spend the weekends just like down there making music and stuff. And then finally we were just like, hey, you know, like, let's go perform this somewhere. So we found some open mic night and we performed it, and we didn't know that Sonny Jim was there. And I had never met Sonny Jim before, but I've heard of who he was. And after we performed, the host goes, okay, after these guys, we've got so-and-so performing, and after that we got Sonny Jim. And I was like, what? Because all I had heard about Sonny Jim was that he was a battle rapper, and what he was known for was going to all the open mics around the UK and just tearing into everyone, like just ripping people to shreds, like destroying them on the microphone. And I was just like, oh damn, like I hope he didn't see us perform. Right? But he did, and the legend was true. Like he literally just went. He grabbed the microphone, they put on a beat, and he was probably one of the greatest freestylers I've ever seen live. He just went in front of everyone and just went in at everyone. And I was just like, man, like, okay. So it was experiences like that where it just taught me like, okay, it's just a whole nother level out here, and a whole nother level of hunger. You know? Yeah.
So how many rap groups have you been a part, or not just rap groups in general, have you been a part of?
Oh like, man, so many. So many. I'm like, the people that are close to me sometimes have to like reel me in, because I think I get involved in too many things. It's like people will ask me to do something and I'll be like, yeah, sure, let's go do it. You know? And I probably,
it's a great quality to have at times, you know, it's a gift and a curse, right?
You know, but like to me, I just like new experiences, you know, and I guess because my passion is experimenting in the studio, like, you know, like making noise. Like no noise is bad noise to me. It's just noise. You know, we can somehow fit that in somewhere, you know, that's going to fit into some kind of project, you know? So because that's my mindset, a lot of the times I'll do things with bands or other people or whatever. And maybe they're not so great, but I don't realize it at the time, you know, and those that are close to me are just like, yo, you shouldn't put this out, or, you know, you shouldn't put your name to this or whatever. Like, it's not that great, you know, like, and I'm just like, oh, whatever. I had fun doing it, you know, and to me, that's all that matters. Like, I had fun doing it, you know? People always say, like, what do you listen to? Like, what do you like to listen to? I actually don't listen to any music, but if I do listen to something, it's probably my own stuff, because I make music for me, you know, like it expresses what I'm feeling the best, more than any other music out there, because I wrote it. So I have a whole bunch of songs that are unreleased that I listen to myself, you know.
So that J Electronica type of thing where he makes music, but he makes it for himself, and then if he decides to put it out, you decide to put it out, like, you know. Yeah,
that's why, like, I mean, I'm surprised sometimes that people like the stuff that I put out. You know, I just feel blessed, because, like, to me, it's like, dude, I just made that for me. You know, okay, fine. I put it out now, and I've kind of made a career out of it, you know, and it's gotten me this far, and I feel really, really blessed. You know.
I mean, music is supposed to, you know, to touch the soul, is supposed to resonate with people, right? You know what I mean? But a lot of musicians, they're critical of themselves, right? They don't want to put it out, you know. Like, it seems like you're vice versa. You just make it for you. It's not like you're necessarily critical of putting it out. You just don't make it for everybody. It's just for you. You know?
I've gotten better at deciding. I think over the past 10 years working with the recipe and stuff, I think they've kind of fine-tuned my judgment on what needs to go out and what shouldn't, you know. But
Yeah.
I've got this release that's come out.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, let's jump into that. Before we get there, though, can we just go a little bit on your journey? So you was in Indonesia, you performed, you were opening acts. You know, you had some success in that realm, and then you moved to Manchester. You got more fine tuned with some of the stuff.
Yeah.
You were able to collaborate with people. You're able to meet different people, and then was the next.
I got my degree, my certificate in sound engineering, and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I came here on holiday.
Right.
In 2005.
Okay.
And so I had already my training and my courses in Manchester were only for 18 months. Mm-hmm. But I lived there for 4 years. Okay. Right. So after the 18 months, I didn't really know where to go.
Right.
Like I didn't want to go back to Indonesia. I have family in Switzerland, but I didn't really want to go to Switzerland. So I just stayed in Manchester, and I was working with bands in the evenings, but during the day I was working in Subway. I was making sandwiches.
Right. Oh,
right.
Yeah.
So I did that for 4 years, and then I came here on holiday in 2005, and Dubai was everything Manchester wasn't. Right. In Manchester, if you take all the days, or maybe moments, so it's not even days. Right. If you take all the moments the sun is out during the year and put them all together, you probably have about a week's worth of sun.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
The rest of the time is just raining and cold and depressing. And so I was like, wow, okay, that's the sun. You know?
And this is what heat feels like.
Yeah, this is what heat feels like. And then everyone was like, oh, here, if you take all the moments it rains and you put it all together, you'll probably have about a week's worth of rain. Right. So I was like, okay, cool. And I don't want to make sandwiches anymore. Can I do that over here? And I met so-and-so who introduced me to another person. And then back then, it really was a land of opportunity, you know? And there was a lot of opportunity here for me to not make sandwiches and do what I love, which was work with sound. And so a whole bunch of places were just like, yo, you need to be here though.
Right.
You know, like we can't promise you anything if you're over there. Come here and, you know, we got work for you. Right. So I was like, cool. So I went back, I saved money for 3 months, and then I moved over here.
Boom.
In beginning of 2006.
Yeah.
And I've been here ever since.
Well, how scary was that?
Very scary.
Yeah.
But I just didn't want to make sandwiches anymore, and I was tired of the rain.
Yeah. Shout out to the Subway workers, man. Who made it a point, you know what I mean? Not to keep making sandwiches, you know?
Yeah.
So the journey, you know, you came over here and you met a few people and you were doing what you would like to do with it, which is work with sound. And then, you know, how did you get involved? Was the Recipe your first group here, or did you kind of?
So the Recipe
wasn't a group then.
It wasn't a group. No, it wasn't a group back then. So growing up in Indonesia, especially being from the Javanese culture, we're very, very sort of submissive, you know, and we don't like to be brash or very outspoken or anything like that. So whenever I go to a new place, I consider it like going into someone's house.
Right. Okay.
You know, you don't just go into someone's house and put your feet up on the table and stuff like that. So when I came to Dubai, I didn't tell anyone that I was really doing music or anything. I wanted to be a fan. I wanted to find out what the music scene was like out here. So I actually became a fan of the music scene. I started going out, going to all the events that were happening here, not just in hip hop, like everything. I went to the metal nights, I went to the rock nights, I went to the open mic nights, I went to, you know, the art nights and stuff. I went, and the one thing that I noticed that was lacking was there was nothing going on in the hip hop scene. There was all this stuff happening in all the other scenes, but there was nothing happening in the hip hop scene. And the rock community here, the rock and metal community here is really something special. Okay, they have such a strong, tight, supportive community. And back then, they had monthly local band nights called Rock Nation. Shout out to Nickel, who was putting that together. He still holds these nights, even during these tough COVID times. He still tries to put these nights on and put local bands on. And every year, all the bands would get together and they would, you know, put money together to put a compilation tape together, compilation CD together of all their music, get it mixed and mastered properly, stuff, put an event together at one of these Rock Nation nights, and push it as much as they can and sell the CDs and stuff. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, why is nobody doing this for the hip hop community?
Yeah.
You know, and there's big you know, there were quite strong figureheads in the hip hop community already at that time. So I reached out to them. I was like, hey, listen, like, this is happening there.
Right.
Like, you know, with your support and, you know, the power that you have in this scene and your voice, like, we could do this. Like, you should spearhead this. But I think it was such a novel idea at the time, like that I don't think Dubai was ready for it. I don't think the people were ready for it. But I was like, you know what? Like, I'll do this. Like, I've got the sound engineering knowledge. I just need to find a place where I could record. Do this. I need the space, find a space for this. So I met a guy called Jabbar who lived in a villa in Barsha, and at the back of his villa, he had this huge majlis, like it's like a separate house in the back, right? But he had converted it into a studio, live room and control room. Like, he had, you know, broken a hole in the wall, had put a glass window there, and it was great, you know? And we could make as much noise as we wanted to, and we wouldn't bother his family, because, you know, it was separate. So then I went on to Dubai Eye. There was a presenter, her name was Zara Soar, and every Saturday night she held a 2-hour local segment, and it was one of the very few platforms back then where you could get to know local musicians. You know, it was a very big thing back then. And so I went on to her show, and I knew everyone's listening. Like, everyone in whatever scene is listening, because, you know, there was no social media at that time. The only way that you found out about anything was radio or magazines or newspapers, right? So I knew everyone would be listening, and I kind of put it out there. I was like, listen, I want to do this project. If you're a rapper, if you're a producer, if you're a beatboxer, if you're a singer, hit me up. Here's my phone number.
Live on air?
Live on air. Here's my phone number. Let's do this. You know? And suddenly I started getting text messages. And next thing you know, in 2008, for 3 months during the summer, almost every night, about 20 of us were meeting up in the studio, just hanging out, getting to know each other, bonding for the first time, you know, because everyone kind of knew of each other and stuff, but because of the way the hip hop culture is, you know, everybody thought they were cool. Everybody thought they were better than the other, so no one was really messing with each other. But then, like, this place gave a space for everyone to just get to know each other, you know, and realize that, hey, we all like the same things, and, you know, producers would come and put beats on, and then someone would be like, oh, I got something for this, and go in and record something, and then, you know, someone else would be like, oh, you know what, like maybe a day or two later, someone would be like, oh, I got a second verse for that, and go in and record a second verse for that. And we just spent 3 months recording this thing and just getting to know each other, you know?
Was it a natural chemistry after, like, you guys started getting to know each other, like, know who complements each other, like what artists complement each other in the studio, or was it like one of those things where you just tried everything? We tried everything. You know, we were just like, because of me and my whole liking to experiment thing, I was just like, let's just do whatever. Like, we did a song that was in the time signature of 3/4. It was on a count of 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And, like, we had a clarinet playing in it and stuff. Like, it was really, really experimental, but it really worked. It's one of my favorite songs on that project. The singer and the turntablist that we had on it were kind of doing a back and forth with each other. It was really cool. And we decided to name the mixtape, The Recipe, Volume 1. That was the name of the mixtape. The compilation was going to be called The Recipe Volume 1. While it was being mixed and mastered, Nickel from Rock Nation gives me a call. And he goes, listen, I'm doing these rock nights. I want to start doing hip-hop nights. Everybody's telling me that
you are in contact with absolutely everyone that is in the hip hop scene in Dubai. And if I need to get any hip hop acts, you should be the guy. And I was like, well, listen, I got this mixtape project that I need to launch. How about on your first hip hop event, we do it as a launch, or maybe not a launch, but like as an introduction to the project, right? And he was like, cool, yeah, let's do that. So we did the show. People flew in from everywhere. People flew in from Lebanon, from Bahrain.
Wow.
Like, yeah, like Outlaw and all them came out here. Frederick showed up.
Wow.
The whole place was packed. It was, because we marketed it as the first time local acts headline their own show.
Right.
Like local hip hop acts headline their own show,
Wow.
which had never been done before, right? At that point, I know since then there's been many claims to that,
right.
but we really were the first to headline our first hip hop artists headlining their own shows, and so that's why all these people came from all over to witness this, and it kind of just exploded like we never expected it to. Like, we just started doing shows everywhere. And it got to a point where, like, we were getting booked so much. Luckily, there was enough of us where we could send 2 of us to that show, 2 of us to that show, 2 of us to that show. And we would be playing at, like, 3 or 4 different venues at the same time. But just, like, different members of us playing at different venues, you know? Still flying the Recipe flag. So it started as artists from the Recipe, like that's how they were booking us, and then eventually it just became the Recipe. It stuck.
Wow, man, that's dope, man. That's dope. So so now you're here, you got you created a collective, and that eventually became the Recipe. Right now you boil that down to the remaining. I mean, I guess everybody went, they did their own thing.
Life happened.
Life. There you go. And then it became like the remaining 3 members, which is you, Kaz, and Aaron. Peace Storm. So and then you guys put out several projects with just you 3 with the Recipe flag, right? How has that transition been for you guys, like to kind of?
That was amazing. Everything up to us deciding we were going to do that album, we looked at it as market research. Right. So from 2008 to 2013, 2014, everything that we had done, all the shows that we had done, all the mixtapes that we had put out, and the songs that we had put out, we were just like, this is just market research. Like, now we know what works. Now we know what doesn't. Now we kind of know what people like from us, what they don't like from us. So let's now take that knowledge and put that into an album. Right. The album, though, to get to the album was another 2-year process of releasing all these other things that would then lead to that album. So when we got into the studio to work on the album, we were actually going into the studio to write a 2-year process to that album. All the things, all the singles and mixtapes and stuff that would hype things up to lead up to that album and help it be as successful as it could be. Luckily for us, we're so blessed. Like, this city is really, like, only in Dubai, like, do opportunities happen to artists over here. And we were blessed to be approached by a pioneer of the hip hop culture from the United States, Glenn Sweetie G, Toby. He was in town and he reached out to us, and we met with him, and he offered to mentor us. So he came and he spent 2 months with us while we were in the recording process. And he just taught us so much, man. He taught us everything about not just the culture, but just the music industry, you know, and how to go about doing things and how to conduct yourself and stuff and be more serious. And we learned so much from him and that whole process. And I guess because we were taking ourselves a little bit more seriously at that time, because this would be the first we knew with the album it would be the first time that we released something commercially, you know, and we felt this responsibility that, okay, if people are going to pay for this now, then we either go all in or we don't.
Right.
You know, like there's no half-ass with this. Like
Right.
we go all in or we don't. We learn everything. We learn how to do everything. So we researched, we literally looked up on Google, okay, record label. What are all the positions in a record label?
Right.
Okay, there's a manager, there's an AR, there's this. What exactly do these people do?
Right.
You know? And then we were like, okay, you can do that.
Right.
You can do that. You can do that. And then we all learned how to do all these different things.
Right.
And it was like, we were, when we say we did everything, we did everything.
Right.
Like-
And it shows though, man, because you guys have a level of professionalism within your music and your branding that you really don't see from a lot of other artists, both locally, regionally, and internationally. And it shows that you guys did your homework, you did your background, you did your research. From the interest of time, man, let's get into your new project. Sorry, man, I get captivated by, you know, the stories.
I've got more than 10 years of stories to tell, bro, and just in Dubai. You know?
Right. So let's get into this new project, man.
Yeah.
Let's get into, you know, how did this new project come about? Your solo project with, your new single with Tim Hassel.
So Tim is a really, really good friend of mine. He's one of the very first artists I met in Dubai. Like Hamdan, I would say he is the voice of Dubai. Like when I think of the voice of Dubai, there's two people that come to mind. It's Hamdan and Tim. Tim is an amazing guitar player, singer, songwriter. He actually plays the Christmas market at the Medina every Christmas season. He does the Burj Al Arab New Year's party. He performs there every year. And he's just one of the most talented people I know. And we became really, really good friends. And I appreciate and look up to him so much. I never thought that I was good enough to do anything musically with him. So I never approached him for it.
Right.
So he approached me finally. He was like, listen, I got this song and I think that it would be really great, you know, if we work together on it. And I was just like, yes.
Yeah. The time has come.
Yeah.
Hold on. All right.
I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to work with Tim, then I want to work, you know, I don't want to be, I don't want to have too many responsibilities here. Like I don't want to try and engineer and record the song myself.
Yeah.
I want to reach out and get another engineer so that I can just focus on being an artist with Tim, and get someone else to worry about all that kind of stuff. So I then reached out to Milton, who's hands down the best engineer I know in person and probably in the world. You're gonna like that, huh, Milton? Yeah. You're gonna like that. And I reached out to Bangsy, who helped a lot with the recipe, who produced a lot for the recipe, also did a lot of production for Foreign Beggars. And the four of us got in the studio and we worked on this song together. And it turned out really, really nice. We made this song, I think 4 or 5 years ago, right? And it's kind of just been sitting there because we were just like, we all really liked it, but we just didn't know what to do with it, you know? We didn't know if Tim was going to release it or if I should release it or whatever. And then finally, when Tim was here, not this past Christmas, but 2019 Christmas, he was here. And I met with him and I was just like, hey, listen, I'm kind of planning what I'm going to do as a solo artist after like the Recipe album promotion is done. And I think I can fit in this song, That's Just a Thing, as one of the releases. And he was like, yeah, go ahead, man. Like, do it. It's been sitting there. I mean, he's like, I'm happy that finally it's going to go out, you know? So yeah, like, it's finally out.
Yeah. So how, and you guys have, not only do you have the song that's coming out, you also have the video.
Yeah.
That's going to drop.
So the video, I really wanted to do something different. Already experimenting, doing something different with Tim and working with Milton and working with Bangsy, all this amazing talent, people that I'd never worked with before, doing doing a kind of music and stuff that I didn't do before. I was like, for the visuals of this, I also want to reach out to somebody that's going to push me to do something different.
Right.
So again, I've always wanted, I reached out to Noosh, who is another person that I admire so much for her creativity. She's such an amazing performer. And anything she touches is just amazing in terms of art. And she's such a special person as well. So I reached out to her, and I kind of made this decision before I reached out to her. I was like, look, whatever she says, I'm going to do it.
Right.
Like whatever she says the visuals are going to be, that's what the visuals are going to be. Like, I trust her fully.
Right.
So I met with her. I gave her the song. She listened to it. We then met up afterwards after she'd heard it. And I had already shot some shots before. Because the song's about a relationship between a guy and a girl, right? So I'd already shot some shots of this girl in Bali. I asked one of my friends back home, hey, listen, can you find this model and just shoot some shots of her, and maybe she can sort of be like this character in the music video or whatever, that we're talking about in the song. And so I'd given Noosh this footage, and when we went to meet after she had heard the song, I was like, so what do you think of the footage of the girl? And she was like, I don't want to use it. Oh. And I was like, why? Like, do you not think she's nice? And she's like, no, it's not that. It's just, I'm not interested in her. I'm interested in you.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And she's like, the song's about a guy and a girl's relationship sort of not working out.
Right.
So I'm interested in you.
Sorry.
And so she's like, I want to see how vulnerable and fragile a man can be in this stage,
right,
at this point, experiencing something like this. So she was like, I want you to do some experimental dancing,
right?
Interpretive dancing. And I was like,
okay.
Like it was scary to hear, but I was like, look, this is why I came to her. This is why I reached out to her. So I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Right. And you know what? I had an amazing time. It was, as cheesy as it sounds, it was kind of life-changing. Like some revelations happened during the process and stuff. And, I knew maybe some people wouldn't appreciate it and maybe wouldn't understand, and think like, what the hell is Swerte doing? But I don't care, man. Like it is what it is. And I think it expresses exactly what I was trying to express in that song.
Yeah. So the journey continues, man.
And the journey continues.
So any last words, any advice that you would give anyone?
Enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
Like stop thinking of the end result and where you want to go, and just take a deep breath and look at where you are and enjoy the moment and enjoy the process, because the process is beautiful.
Boom. Spoken like an OG, man. All right. Thank you so much for joining us on Str8Up Podcast. My name's Berto. We got Swerte in the building, and we out.